The NFL has been around for over 100 years now. Over that time, we've seen plenty of unique things, and as the game evolves, we've seen different strategies as well. But some things are so rare that we'll most likely never see them happen again, which takes us to number 1 on our list. We will never see a running back go in the top 3 of the draft ever again. In 2018, when the Giants held the 2nd overall pick, they selected running back Saquon Barkley. Although analytics have been around in football since the 90s, it did not mean everybody adopted it. It was funny because it was almost a battle between the nerds and the watch to film guys. The watch to film guys said Barkley was the best player in this draft, and to be honest, they had a point. The Giants general manager at the time, Dave Gettleman, even said that Barkley was touched by the hand of God. But on the other end of the spectrum, you had the analytics people shouting from the rooftops about the running back position being diminished in value. Whether it be the numerous examples of teams succeeding with a committee backfield, the position's reliance on other variables, the lack of competitive advantage on the salary cap, or the short primes that running backs tend to have. While Barkley had his moments, especially in 2018 as a rookie, the league eventually caught on. Aside from Bijan Robinson in 2023, who went 8th overall, no running back has ever went in the top 20 of the draft since Barkley was drafted. Unless the NFL changes how running backs affect a team's salary cap, I don't see one ever going this high ever again. Number 2 is Brett Favre's 297 consecutive start streak. From 1992 to 2010, Brett Favre never missed a start. Not only was this the longest streak for any quarterback, but for any non-special teams player as well. I don't think we'll ever see another player touch this record. The closest quarterback right now is Josh Allen, and for Allen to pass Favre, he only has to start just 210 consecutive more games. And yes, only was sarcastic. That's over 12 more seasons of Allen playing and never missing a game. Although the 6'5" Allen is built like a tank, I just don't see this happening in the modern NFL. Guys get hurt more, trainers and management are way more cautious than they used to be, and they simply don't make these guys like they used to. Even Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, guys who never missed games, were not even that close to catching Favre. Rivers would have had to play 58 more consecutive games to pass Favre, which means that even if Rivers kept playing after 2021 and never retired, he would still be trailing Favre right now in 2024. If Rivers somehow hung around and kept playing and stayed healthy, he would have had a chance to pass him next season in 2025. But unfortunately, we have not seen Rivers play since 2021. Number 3, a regular season game gets rescheduled to a Wednesday afternoon. During the 2020 season, plenty of games had to be rescheduled due to groups of players and coaches showing up positive for COVID-19. Some Sunday games would be moved to Mondays, and sometimes even Tuesday nights. But in one scenario where positive tests kept showing up for one team, a game kept getting pushed back all the way up until Wednesday. A game between the Ravens and Steelers kicked off at 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time on a Wednesday. The game at Heinz Field resulted in a 19-14 Steelers win, where the Steelers improved to 11-0. And sadly, this was their peak, having gone 1-5 the rest of the way and losing in the wildcard round. And as for the Ravens, they were playing with RG3 and Trace McSorley at quarterback, with almost half their roster on the COVID list. There was even a video of RG3 throwing a slant to Des Bryant in warm-ups, and people were asking what year it was because this was just a weird thing to see. Now, how rare are Wednesday games exactly? As a matter of fact, there have only been 2 Wednesday games in the NFL since 1948. The other was the 2012 season opener between the Giants and the Cowboys. The only reason the season opened on a Wednesday that year and not a Thursday was because of a Barack Obama speech at the Democratic National Convention. The NFL did not want to conflict with that. Ironically though, this season in 2024, the NFL has 2 games scheduled on a Wednesday, but it happens to be Christmas Day. But will we ever see a scenario where a game is literally rescheduled on a Wednesday? I highly doubt it. Number 4, a guy who has never coached in the NFL or college is hired to be an NFL head coach. This is another pretty recent one that I'm sure we all remember. On November 7th of 2022, the Colts officially hired Jeff Saturday as their interim head coach. Saturday was a Colts legend, having played for the team for 13 years from 1999 to 2011. While Saturday was once again a legend in the Colts community, the guy never coached above a high school level. This was the first and only time it ever happened in the NFL where a head coach had not coached at a collegiate or professional level. And it wasn't like Saturday had an entire offseason to acclimate himself and get ready for the opportunity. He had to be on the sidelines coaching an actual game in just 6 days' notice. To the surprise of probably everybody, the Colts actually won that week, and Saturday started off his head coaching career at 1-0. The bad news though was that the team went 1-7 the rest of the way, and one of those 7 losses was the largest blown lead in NFL history against Minnesota. Matt Ryan plus a first-time head coach with a 33-point lead. What's the worst that could happen? I just thought this was a very unique situation, where a guy one day is working at ESPN, then the next day is an NFL head coach, with once again no real experience. I guess all it takes is one more crazy owner to make this happen, and Jim Irsay definitely fits that description, but I can't see this happening again, especially mid-season. Number 5, referees stopping a game to ask fans to be quiet. In 1997, the Jets were on the road at the Detroit Lions. This was their old stadium, the Pontiac Silverdome, which stopped hosting Lions games after 2001. It was their final regular season game in Detroit, but it came with very high stakes. Not only did the Lions need to win that game to make the playoffs, but Barry Sanders was also chasing down a 2,000-yard rushing season. It was an absolute madhouse with over 77,000 fans going crazy in a dome stadium. It got so loud in there that the referees had to beg the Lions crowd to be quiet on separate occasions. In the early fourth quarter and the Jets pinned inside their own 20, the Jets literally could not get a play off. They couldn't communicate at the line, and the referees had to step in twice and ask the crowd to be quiet. They even tried threatening the home crowd by saying that if the noise continued, that the Lions would be charged with a timeout. The sad part is that the crowd that was once too loud just a couple minutes later went completely silent. This was after Reggie Brown, the linebacker, had that career-ending injury. And although the Lions lost the following week during their playoff game, that atmosphere, along with Barry Sanders going for 2,000 yards, will be remembered by that fan base forever. While there are some very rowdy crowds in the NFL today, like Seattle and Kansas City and New Orleans, I can't imagine this ever happening again. Number 6 brings us to the 2015 divisional round, where we had the coin that did not flip, where at the start of overtime they did the coin toss and the Cardinals looked like they had won the toss, but there was one small issue. Some of the Packers, and mainly Aaron Rodgers, who looked like he caught it first, were outraged because the coin that was flipped by the referee never actually flipped. This meant that they had to re-flip the coin, which definitely frustrated some Cardinals players, but the Cardinals won the toss again anyway. And coin toss aside, this was one of the craziest games I ever watched. Shout out to Jeff Janis. The last thing we'll probably never see again was a dome collapsing. Yeah, you heard that right. Around 5 a.m. on the morning of game day, the Metrodome collapsed. There were some really bad snowstorms in the Minneapolis area, and the snow had become so heavy that the roof literally caved in. There was snow on the turf field in a dome stadium. With a pile of snow on the field and a giant hole in the roof, there was no other option but to move the site of the game. The game got delayed a day to Monday night and took place in Ford Field in Detroit instead of Minnesota. The crazy part is that this ties into one of the topics earlier from the video. Remember the Brett Favre consecutive game streak? He was now a Minnesota Viking at this point, and this was the same week that Favre sprained his shoulder and was very questionable to play. People were making jokes that it was some higher power that delayed the game an extra day so that Favre could have made his 298th consecutive start. But even with the extra day of rest now, Favre was still unable to go. It's sort of like that story of how the Orioles allegedly staged a power outage to extend Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak, except this was completely Mother Nature. I thought this would be a fun topic for a video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If I left any out, let me know in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and as always, I'll talk to you guys next time.